Welcome to our evening meditation, already at the end of July. And picking up with Sarah Bessey, and her next chapter in her book is called Nurture Your Own Belonging. She writes from the perspective of somebody who had quite a bad and painful, I think, experience with the church of which she was a member, in that the church was not an inclusive church, was not welcoming to LGBTQ believers, whereas Sarah and her family were. And she puts it that it was more the church leaving them. But anyway, they no longer belonged. And so a theme for us tonight is, where do we belong? Where do we belong? And does belonging come before believing and behaving? Some churches, maybe Sarah's old church, thought that believing the right thing should come first. I personally think that belonging, giving people a sense of belonging, is what's important. So going with that idea of belonging, we come into this space, this time, this little community that we have on a Monday evening, where we belong, I hope. And we adjust our positions and we go through our own ritual, our own practice of finding a comfortable space, relaxing into it but staying alert, with the intention of letting go of stress or anxiety that we may be carrying. We may not. But either way, we find a comfortable position and we take our 2 deep cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. We may have our eyes closed, we may have the gaze lowered, or we may be using the image on the screen, which is an image from the Taizé community in France. And we're going to be using Taizé music, and I thought that sense of community, of a whole diversity of people, is really captured in the huge diversity of people who form the Taizé ecumenical community. And so before we have our breathing exercises, we'll focus first and just become aware of our own internal weather. The weather's lovely and warm outside. What's it like inside, I wonder? Thinking of stress and anxiety, these are natural emotions, part of our survival. Probably still the natural state for animals such as bats and shrews, from whom we have evolved. Because if you are at risk, and such creatures often are, then it's natural to interpret the world as a threat or a potential threat. But we've evolved on from there, and we don't need to read the world as always posing a potential threat. And we can consciously control our minds away from these unconscious patterns. So just become your own observer. Notice what's going on inside. Is the weather calm, or is it stormy? Is the mind at peace, or are there lots of thoughts moving around? And if there are, can you notice them? And if you're able to notice them, perhaps you're able to step back from them. Maybe here we can use our breath as a way of calming and letting go. So bring your attention to the breath and consciously take deeper, slower breaths. Matching that with your upright posture if you can. Following the breath. Following it as it comes in through the nose, down the windpipe into the lungs, the rising of the stomach, and then following it on the out breath. So literally tracking that breath, going with it inside, internally. Following the air on its journey to within, and then coming back out and escaping. Just that deeper, slower breathing in itself will bring calm and some degree of relaxation. Allowing our thoughts to settle. That idea of consciously controlling, consciously saying that we can leave at the door anything that's been disturbing or worrying us or causing us anxiety. Right here, right now, there is nothing we can do. There is nothing to fix. I am exactly where I need to be. I trust myself to the compassion of the universe, of God, and the unfolding of my life. Bringing the attention back to the breath. Know that you are breathing in. You can say physically or say to yourself, this is an in-breath, and this is an out-breath. In and out. In for 4 and out for 5. 4 and 5. Adding a hold for 2 at the end of the in breath and at the end of the out breath. And as you continue to breathe deeply, just some thoughts on belonging and community. Some thoughts from the early church first, which referred to itself as Ekklesia, literally called out ones, called out and gathered by Jesus. The people of God gathered in community. A foretaste of the kingdom of God. Now we might be tempted to idealize that early church, but in fact, Paul's letters, which make up much of the New Testament, many of those were written because the church was not living up to the ideal. And then in the 2nd century, Christians started calling themselves the Catholic people, where Catholic simply means, in Greek, universal, recognizing that their message was not for any one ethnic group or nation, but was about how things eternally are everywhere, all the time. But again, that became subverted, and Catholic or Roman Catholic with a capital C often became exclusive and excluding. What of today? I think that the need to be in community, to belong, is an age-old one. I suspect the push to prioritise the individual, my own rights, my freedom to do what I want, is part of our modern malaise. Sarah Bessey quotes author Catherine May, who says, "More and more, I crave being part of a congregation, a group of people with whom I can gather to reflect and contemplate, to hear the ways that others have solved this puzzling problem of existence, to hold me to account, to urge me towards doing good." So such a community, such a congregation might be a church. Rowan Williams suggests that church should encompass the Bible, baptism, Eucharist, prayer. Another writer, David Gushee, offers this advice on finding a group of God's people that is a good fit for you. Covenanted believers, he says, who are seriously committed to following Jesus and seeking his kingdom together. Too often, though, we have focused, I think, on an ABC: attendance, buildings, cash, missing out the D of developing discipleship. So just a pause to contemplate, what is the focus of the church we belong to, or the congregation, or the community to which we belong? Is it a healthy environment, or is it missing the point? Diana Butler Bass writes, "If we think of belonging only as membership in a club or a church, we do indeed miss the point. Belonging is the risk to move beyond the world we know, to venture out on pilgrimage, to accept exile." Richard Raw says most of us are afraid to venture out of our little comfort zone of people just like me, Yet we read that Jesus himself moved away from Nazareth into Galilee of the Gentiles, deliberately moving to the frontier, the edge, where not everybody was Jewish, where many cultures and ethnicities came together. There, in the land of the Gentiles, Jesus proclaimed the reign of God. So while belonging is not dependent on institutional structure, we do still need community. So perhaps the question to ask is, where am I finding belonging right now? And where can I create belonging for others too? Bessie herself says she still believes in intentional community, and with her family is cautiously attending a new church. Online communities are also an option. I've just joined the lay community of St. Benedict and have attended morning prayer the last 2 days, which has been very uplifting. Alternative communities, a book club, a Pilates group, a volunteering setting. Our journeys may require us to remove ourselves from church with a small c for a while, but we are still part of the Church Universal. Richard Raw says, we know we're living in this Church Universal when we can see God in all cultures, in all social classes, even in all religions. So with some of those thoughts, we'll move to our silence with the Taizé chant. Taizé, a wonderful, diverse ecumenical community. In the Lord I'll be ever thankful. In the Lord I will rejoice. Look to God, do not be afraid. So you may want to just use this silence to be observer of your own thoughts and to allow them to calm, or to contemplate community, belonging. Where am I finding belonging right now? And where can I create belonging for others too? So we come out of our silence, perhaps taking another deep breath, gently opening your eyes. That's that thought from Sarah Bessie. Where am I finding belonging right now? And where can I create belonging for others too? She says finally, you might not belong where you once did, but that doesn't mean you don't belong anywhere. There are many ways to cultivate belonging, friend. You'll find your spot, and you'll be someone else's anchor. You'll find your spot, and you'll be someone else's anchor.